I'm Tori, and I am sitting down today with one of our counselors, Lacey Wallace, just talking through some different things. And the next thing I'd love to talk about is just kind of a trending topic. So when I say a trending topic, I really just mean, this is something that a lot of people are Googling, a lot of people are asking about right now. And the one that I noticed and wanted to talk with you about is trauma triggers. Of course, you have a lot of experience with sex therapy and sexual trauma and things like that. And so I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on trauma triggers. What are they? How can we practically work through them? So if you, just as a counselor, could kind of talk through this, expand on this idea a bit, I would love that.
Yeah. Yes, it is a really worthwhile thing to discuss and talk through. And so many people, have experienced trauma and haven't necessarily walked through it or processed it or don't know how to do that or where to do that, but recognize they definitely are impacted by that through what people would call a trigger in that regard. And so really understanding what's happening to you in that moment, whether it is something that you hear or something you see or an experience that you're in, that you notice yourself be heightened, right? That you notice what you would call your body is being triggered or your thoughts are being triggered. And really just understanding it's kind of like we're being hijacked in that moment from a past experience. And so our bodies, and I think really it's important that we understand that it's not just what you're thinking, it's what's actually happening within your body. So recognizing that, when we become hijacked by that past experience, whether it be something we hear or see or experience, that there is something that is going on with you physiologically. Your nervous system has been impacted. That sympathetic nervous system is kind of like the gas to that. So your breathing quickens, you notice your pulse is racing, you might start sweating, so I think it's just recognizing that and being aware of what's going on in your body and working out. So how can I focus on my body at this point and calm it down? So what can I do as far as, being mindful and being gracious with myself in this moment? If you are a couple, like if you are married and, experiencing this trauma together, for your spouse to know what they can do to help you in that moment. How can they be helpful? What can they say? What's not helpful for them to say in those moments? Really figuring out how to understand yourself and understand your body, and to activate that, the brakes to that, which is the parasympathetic part of that. But to understand that when that sympathetic nervous system is engaged, when the gas is pushed, your body is flooded with adrenaline and hormones and all kinds of stuff in that. And it's just, we can't just wish it away at that moment. We can't just say, okay, I want to stop now. We actually have to engage in calming and soothing our body in that moment to quiet that. And so being able to recognize and understand that we are presently safe, right? That was in the past. We are being hijacked from something that's in the past. To be able to calm. Some people have a smell that really calms and soothes them, or a taste or a texture of something. So being able to engage in that breathing and whatever it is that they need, because once we can calm down, we begin to start having a clearer mind where we can be able to think and problem solve and recognize that we can distinguish past from present in those moments, once we begin to learn how to calm ourselves. And so I think that's really, really, really important to understand and to learn, what situations might have triggered us in the past, be prepared, for that to happen, to kind of go on a little bit of the offense instead of simply being defending what's coming on to us at that moment, having to be reactive to that, but maybe moving into, this situation last time was really difficult for me. How can I prepare myself? How can I calm my body going into that? I have a lot of my clients, really practice their calming, their breathing in times that they're not triggered. So moving into being able to be mindful in your breathing throughout the day when you're not triggered will be helpful, because you'll be like, oh, this is relaxing. Like when you are triggered and you engage in that, oh, I remember this. Your body remembers it. It remembers that it calms. It remembers that you're okay. And so I usually, kind of help my clients walk through and understand those things that they can do to help prevent, right? And so once we are able to calm ourselves, just knowing when and where to reach out to be able to process through those, because we can't just wish them away. If we have trauma, if we've got things in our past that are significant, and we need to be able to find a safe place to be able to talk about them. And because ultimately in those moments when you are feeling triggered, our goal is to help you to be able to communicate what you need, right? What do you need? What's going on with you? To be able to know boundaries, to be able to communicate what it is that's, that they're fearful of, what it is that they want. And so to not necessarily be paralyzed in that moment, but to be able to engage and trust yourself and be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think the physiological, biological part of all of that is what's most interesting to me, just the way that God wired our minds to, be really afraid of trauma and afraid, of that stuff. Our body has like a physical reaction
Yeah.
when there's fear,
Yeah. Yeah, we're hardwired to avoid things that are painful or harmful. And so we're hardwired into, fighting or fleeing from those things that are, physically dangerous to us or harmful to us. And so, and the thing of it is our bodies don't necessarily know, if I've experienced this in the past and I'm experiencing this now, even though the now might be safe, it's still being reactive to what happened in the past. And
So it's
so
almost like it,
there
it
needs
thinks
to be
it's
a healing.
protecting you,
Oh,
but
yes. Oh, yes.
it thinks it's protecting you, but
Yes.
it's actually maybe making things escalate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, because we can feel anxiety in good things as well, but it's our body remembers. Our bodies remember. And so that's really very important that we understand that it wasn't just it's not just your thoughts. It's your whole body that's experiencing this. And so we can't just attack our thoughts. We can't just, try to minimize our thoughts or, take our thoughts captive at that moment. That, that's good too, but we have to incorporate the calming and the safety that we need within our bodies too, to understand, how we can decrease that adrenaline and, the cortisol and that, like, how can we decrease that to where we can, know that we're safe and be able to be calm and think calmer and to really care well for ourselves in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely, my heart goes out to anyone, who might be watching this, right now or watching the replay, who has experienced any kind of trauma and, wrestles through those triggers. But Lacey, I just really appreciate your your intentionality in answering that question and even giving just the practical tips of, watching your breathing and mindfulness to kind of calm your body down when it starts to be triggered like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the more that they engage in that, the more they can trust themselves. And so it might be that they're working with their therapist or, they're working with their spouse to be able to, to be confident that they can. I had a spouse the other day when they logged in and he said, I have to brag on my wife. She was able to, and he just went into this, like she was able to calm herself, and what used to take her 30 minutes took her 5 minutes. And, just really, so precious to hear a husband, brag on his wife about that and, allow her to take that in. And, because we're really hard on ourselves. And she's like, but I still had a panic attack, right? I still had that struggle. Yes. But, recognizing the growth and having her husband be able to say that was awesome. But so sometimes, it's that we practice that in the safety with others, and before we're able to engage in that on our own. But to help provide that and trust themselves to be able to, to calm and ground themselves in that moment. And, then they, really be able to do the work that they need to be able to process through that trauma to where, hopefully in the future, it won't have the power to hijack them like it has in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned, that community aspect of it. We talk about that a lot
Mhm.
here at MyCounselor.Online, about the importance of community and communicating, what you're feeling to others and just not isolating yourself in those depressive feelings, those traumatic, triggers, just not isolating yourself and, shaming yourself. We talk about that a lot. And I think that, you just touched on it again, just the importance of, letting people in even to the messy spots.
Mhm.